Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Welcome to another episode of my review of Married at First Sight. This is episode 6. Honey, I'm home. Thank you so much to those of you who have been rocking with me since the beginning of this season, and thank you to those of you who are new to my channel. Welcome. I'm going to be reviewing this episode and this series from the perspective of a super single, meaning somebody who has never been in a relationship and is interested and could see the benefits of being in an arranged marriage. So let's jump right into this episode. Ooh, before we go, let's say hello to the good people of Instagram and let them know that a video is forthwith coming forthwith. Hey guys, it's Wahima and I am filming my review of Married at First Sight. Girl, she's real natural today. Look at this. I was just like trying to film this video. Look at this hair. Anyways, so I'm just saying shout out to the good people of Instagram for my YouTube video. It will be up on YouTube on Thursday, hopefully Thursday morning, but possibly Thursday night. All right, you guys. Thanks. So we pick up and the couples are leaving Costa Rica and they are going to one of the person's homes. It seems like the trend is they're going to all of the males' homes, right? I don't think they went into any of the... Luke and Kate went back to Kate's place, but all the other couples went to the guys' places. So in the beginning, they're just showing their partners their homes and seeing things that they might want to take, things that they might want to leave, because it turns out that the show is going to give them an apartment to stay in for the remainder of the time where it's just them kind of merging. And these apartments are partially furnished, but they can bring some personal items with them. So this is an interesting time because now Pastor somebody, Kirk, I don't know, the pastor guy, he's coming to visit them. He's doing some home visits. So his main goal is to get the couples to start talking about finances and intimacy. He's there to kind of just see how the couples are and where they're at this point in their relationship. We are now 8 days in. Let's talk about AJ and Stephanie because they're the first couples that jump to my mind. So AJ and Stephanie have gotten along from off the bat. This seems like the perfect situation and the perfect kind of relationship that you'd want to see out of this series. Two people who are in their late 30s who have tried everything, who either have been single for a long time or not very long but just wants to be married. Both of them want to be married. And so it seems like they're both going to do what they need to do to make this work. Stephanie seems like a very fun-loving, easygoing type person, and she wants to fix things and she always wants to make people happy. And so she's kind of buoyant and seems to me like somebody who's never really let things get her down. Maybe she's just one of those blessed people who have never had to deal with, any kind of chronic depression or anything like that. Which I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's what she gives off to me, and that's the kind of vibe that I find refreshing in a lot of different people. So whereas I feel like AJ has some issues. I think on the surface, he's very buoyant and exciting, and he wants to make everybody laugh. But when he gets upset, I feel like it switches on a dime, and it's something that he's unable to recognize because he's just all a ball of emotion, right? He's not necessarily thinking all the time about how his emotions or what he's feeling can affect somebody outside of him, especially because he's been single for so long. They're at his place and he's basically showing Stephanie around. It's very small. He says that he decided to live there because it's centrally located, but he gave up on space. And so it really is just like two different spaces, the kitchen and living room and then his bedroom. Stephanie is like looking around at all his things and he mentions that there's a box of like his life stuff that he keeps in one area. And she's like, oh, we're going to have to go through that. Like, I think she's like really interested in getting to see him and like the things that are in that box that really, he says, make up who he is. And I thought that was really nice and sweet of her. So their next segment is them walking around Philadelphia. And I thought it was really nice as well because they finally get to walk around a city that they've both lived in as a couple together. And I imagine they're seeing the sights in a completely different way. And they have a conversation about being like the cute couple who people stare at and they want to be that cute couple because Stephanie says that she's always looked at those couples with envy and now she's excited to be one of those couples. They have a cute little moment where Stephanie says, I do to him again, and they kiss. And I really like that montage. They seem, like I said, to be the couple that is going to go the distance, the couple that is going to be the most successful. Now, we do get into a little bit of the fact that AJ can talk over Stephanie, that he is like very long-winded. And even when they're doing like conversations with the producers in front of the camera. Like Stephanie will answer and then AJ will answer this long soliloquy and it's just like she doesn't say anything else. And she says that she's comfortable with telling him to be quiet, but I don't necessarily know how true that is. I picked up a little bit like maybe when they're by themselves, she might be more comfortable, but I don't think definitely in public, like she's somebody who's going to ever make a show. So if he's being a little extra in public or if he's like yelling at a waitress, for example, because I do see AJ as being the kind of person, like I said, like when he gets upset, he doesn't care who's around. Like everyone needs to know that he's upset. And I feel like in public, Stephanie wouldn't be somebody to tell him to be quiet. She would just silently sit by and let him do it and then be mad at him for forever or for the rest of the day. And he wouldn't understand what was wrong with her. So that was one thing that I was like, just from an outside perspective, that is something that I think that Stephanie needs to nip in the bud right now, that within these next couple of weeks that she needs to explain to him that like, he's got to get in control of his temper. And not to say that he flies off of the handle and gets crazy, but I do think when he gets upset, he kind of shuts down and he isn't open to what else is happening around him. You know, for example, they are talking about some of the items that they are going to take from his apartment and put into this new apartment. And he makes a comment that he doesn't want to take things out of his current apartment because he doesn't know what all he's going to need in the new apartment, which is fair enough because the apartment is slightly furnished. And he makes a comment that speaks to him wanting to come back to his own apartment and sleep there a night if he needs to, which kind of doesn't settle well with Stephanie. And I don't know if she later on has that conversation with him off camera, but I kind of would have liked to hear that conversation where she says, you know, it's really concerning to me that you're planning on sleeping here. And I wanted to see how that conversation went, because I feel like if she were to confront him on things, he would be a little like weird and very defensive at the very least, you know? And that's concerning to me because it's like process is so accelerated that there's really no room for you to be defensive. You just have to like open yourself up to this process and what the other person is saying. He snaps at her a little bit and she like backs down because she's like, you said you wanted to take this photo off the wall. And he's like, well, I don't want to take everything. I don't want to walk into this apartment, you know, in a week from now and not know where I am, or like alluding to like not feeling like it's the same place as his old place. And I was like, that is a red flag, bro. Like, this is no longer your place. If you aren't comfortable with taking a picture off the wall and taking it to this new space you guys are going to share in the interim, then you're not ready to move out of this apartment. Because if you were, you would just be like, yeah, let's see what I can do. But he was very adamant about, I don't want to move anything until I can see what I can bring because I don't know. And, you know, let's just like, it was overwhelming to him. And I didn't quite understand why. I mean, I understood why from like a psychological standpoint, but like, I didn't understand why really, you know, any like a real reason that he could tell her. And then when they finally get to their new place, also, this move was sponsored by U-Haul because they really wanted us to know that those boxes were from U-Haul. When they finally get to the new place, he is talking about the spacing and how, you know, things are cool and let out. And she's saying, you know, I like stuff put away. And he's like, well, I like stuff out. You're going to hate me. And I was like, that seems like something that Stephanie would compromise on. Like, yes, you may like your products in a cabinet, but that bathroom was way small, bro. So like, I don't know how many items they could get in the cabinet. And if they had two separate sinks, then it wouldn't be a problem. If he likes his stuff out and I like my stuff in, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. As long as the space that I'm utilizing doesn't have a bunch of caca around it, and as long as he's willing to wipe all that caca down once a week, because when you have stuff out on the counter and you don't clean it like often, it just builds dirt and dust. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to put myself in the position of the woman whenever there seems to be a conflict within these couples, which is something I really like to do. And so it seems like that would be something that Stephanie would be able to overcome. She didn't seem too upset about it or whatever. It just seems like something they would have to table for later. So the next point, he goes into the bathroom and he's like, oh, there's 2 shelves in the bathroom. That's really great. We could put our items there. And I was just like, that's something I would never think of. Like, who cares if they're shelving or not? You just get a caddy. You get a shower caddy. And so she says, oh, I brought a shower caddy. And he says, oh, what kind? And she's like, the kind that hangs on the hook thing, that hangs on the spout. And he's like, oh, no, I don't like those. It just feels too, okay, but whatever. And then he like grabs some items and walks upstairs. And it seems like he's upset at her and like she's carrying items too. And you would think he'd be like, babe, put those down. I'll get that. You get this. I'll take the luggage. But it just felt weird. And I don't know if it was the way it was edited. It was probably the way it was edited. But it just felt like he just went into this mode of being frustrated and angry because she bought a shower caddy. And my thing is why doesn't he just explain, I'm a tall man. And so for me, with that thing hanging there, it feels weird. So can we just get the ones that hang up against the wall, you know, the pogo stick type ones that go in the corner? And I'm sure she would have been like, oh no, that's great. But his automatic, like, I don't like those. Yeah, I hate those. It makes me feel like, okay, whatever. And then walking away is like not a resolution. Just say, there's another kind. Do you like that other kind? Can we do that? Just because, and no, and explain it to her because she's small and she's probably never felt too large in a shower. I felt too large in a shower before. So I do understand where AJ is coming from. I'm just saying that his delivery of it was a little extra, you know? There's a couple things about AJ and his like behavior that I was like, oh, these are seemingly red flags because he just isn't self-aware enough to be able to manage his emotions in the way that he should. And perhaps as they go and when they talk to the other professionals and Dr. Pepper, P.S. I just realized that her name is Bloody Dr. Pepper. I didn't even put it together. I was like, ooh, Pepper, that's a cute name, but like, it's a soft drink, girl. So that's all that I have to say about them. I just hope that he, and the course of this 7-week process, starts to develop a sense of self and really manage how he's feeling about moving from being single to being with somebody, and not just try to see the rosy sides of the equation, but just really look at the side of it that freaks him out, because watching them do that freaked me out. Thinking about moving in with somebody freaks me out. I've had a roommate before and it does not go well. I like things a particular way, but I imagine if I were in love with somebody, which these couples are not in love yet, they're working towards being in love. If I'm in love with somebody, I would think that I would be able to manage it, but I have no idea. The one person that I was in love with didn't love me back, and it was the worst experience, and I'm just really hesitant to fall back in love with somebody and be treated the way that I was treated. Guys, if you like what you're hearing in this video so far, please give this video a thumbs up and go on ahead and subscribe to this channel. You know you want to. I always bring my fresh opinion to everything that I talk about on this channel. So go on ahead and subscribe. Give in. Give us a like at the very least. Okay, so the next couple that we're going to talk about, first off the top of my head, is KK, which is Keith and Christine. We first pull up into Keith's grandmother's house, which, girl, she walked in and there was red from floor to ceiling, and I was feeling it. It was like, I just felt like I had just walked into like Valentine's Day land. Like, how does she keep that red carpet so red and clean? Because Keith walked in there with shoes on, and I'm sure that camera crew that was all up in her house had shoes on too. Girl, I love me a Jamaican granny, girl. I love me a Caribbean granny. I'm all about it. I was looking at all the pictures on the wall, all the doilies. I'm sure in the bathrooms there was like the little lady that covers the toilet paper, and there was probably a cover over the tissue. There was probably the fluffy thing over the top of the toilet. Girl, I love me a Caribbean granny house. Reminds me of like my childhood. The first problem that I see with Keith and Christine is that, to me, Keith seems like a slob. I mean, he just lives like a teenager. His room was not put together at all. For him to be, what, in his early 30s? Like, bruh. Stuff from floor to ceiling. Now, granted, I know he probably didn't have time to clean up his room, but still, you're an adult. You don't have this kind of bedroom as an adult, you know? And he keeps saying that his grandma took care of him and that he wants a woman who could do the same, but there was something about him that just was like, oh, this man is not for me. And I might be missing out on something great in a partner, but if he presented himself the way Keith presents himself, I don't know that I would be into it. I would just be really concerned that I would have to do everything around the house for someone who does not pay the majority of the bills. Like, I can't do everything and pay the majority of the bills. I don't know, like maybe I'm falling into like conventional, you know, marriage, whatever. I do think it should be 50-50, but you're 50, if it can't be financial, then it needs to be with household stuff, and you need to know how to maintain a house. And he doesn't seem like somebody who knows how to maintain a house, you know? Like somebody who goes, oh, we're low on toilet paper, I should buy toilet paper. I'm okay with being that, but you need to do other things that complement that. Christine sees his room and she's like, oh no, we're staying in a hotel. So her interaction with grandma was really great. Like, grandma thinks they're so cute together, and she was like talking to the camera crew about it. And I thought it was a really sweet moment. I loved his grandma. I love that he shouted out being Jamaican, and it was just like a really cool moment. But Christine's like, we're staying in a hotel. So they stayed in a hotel for a couple days until they got into their interim house. So they were in their interim house, and Christine really liked it. She said as a realtor, it was scary to move into a place that she'd never seen, but it was gonna work. And she started cooking in the kitchen because she said, you know, this is the first meal I'm going to make for him. It's not going to be all the time, but, you know, let's go ahead and have our first meal together. And he was outside, and he like decorated outside. They have a really cute outside area. And He decorated and lit candles and put up lights, and they had a nice meal and they kissed, and it seems like everything was okay, but I do see some doubt creeping into Christine's mind. I think Christine is coming a little bit off of the honeymoon. And sex. So they still haven't had sex yet. So Pastor Clark, or whatever his name is, he comes to their house and they start to have a conversation about finances and other things. Right now, Christine is taking the brunt of everything. It seems like she's like, I'll do the finances, you know, I make the most money, I'll do this. And it seems like Keith is just kind of like, I don't know what to do. Like, he's very much not understanding his role. And so they are really going to have to work it out. She's going to really have to set expectations for him. And Pastor Clark says something like, there's a lot on the horizon that you guys haven't talked about and that you need to discuss. And it feels like there is, you know, there is an eruption on the horizon. And I was like, yeah, I feel that too. Now, it's too soon to say it, right? We're 8 days in, and they still have like more than 5 weeks to go. But I still want them to have that conversation, because at the end of the day, I do want all of these couples to work out. But I feel like Keith, I mean, I didn't start to think that Keith was going to do anything until I saw him in those scrubs. And then they said that he works 4 days a week, 10 hours a day at night as a nurse in the hospital. Or no, not a nurse, as a dialysis technician in a hospital. So I was like, okay, full-time job. And he's also going to school. So I just, you know, there's something about it that makes me believe that Christine is going to be mothering him more than I think that she wants to or deserves to. So then the pastor talks to them about having sex, and they both felt like, you know what, we know that the passion is there, and we know that when the time is right, we'll go on ahead and do this. But right now it feels like, hey, I just met this guy. I met this person 8 days ago. And I think to myself, like, you're right. But like, I've had sex on like the 3rd date, and I feel like they have gone further than the 3rd date. I've had sex on the 2nd date. Like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see if we want to go forward. Let's see if this chemistry works. So I understand their trepidation, and maybe it's because they're on television. But at the same time, you guys have spent every day for 8 days in a row together. Like, that is 8 dates. Like, you're 8 dates in. I think it's safe that you can have sex. Especially because I'm sure they had to do drug testing and all kinds of testing in order to even get on the show, DNA testing and stuff. So, like, come on, you guys are fine. You know, roads are clear. That's all I have to say about KK. Like I said, there are some red flags on the horizon, but there's nothing really that I can point to right now. There's nothing specific that Keith said that made me go, "Rrr," but I did see those facial expressions and the nervous hand movements of Christine, and I think she's just really wants this to work. And so in her mind, if she kind of just says she's going to do everything and takes charge, then she can push through it. But as somebody who does that in my real life and just had a conversation with my boss about delegating to other people and not taking the brunt of a project onto my own shoulders, I would say to Christine that she needs to lay out what he needs to do, regardless of if he's in school and working. This is where he is in his life. He signed up for this show and said he was ready for marriage, so he needs to step up to the plate and be ready for marriage. So let's move on to our next couple. The next couple that we're going to talk about is Will and Jasmine. So we have Will and Jasmine, and we go to Will's apartment or house and we check it out. It's sparsely furnished. There's really nothing to talk about. It's not the greatest place, but it isn't as sloppy as Jasmine thought it was going to be. And Will was like, you know, you owe me an apology for thinking that I was going to be sloppy. And she was like, no, you were sloppy. And I was like, girl, just give him an apology. Like, what is happening? She has her dog over there, and Will is slightly worried about this dog. He doesn't say it, but I can feel it, because he's like, if this dog pees, like, that's going to be an issue. And she's just like, he won't pee. And I'm like, this dog is going to pee. Like, what are you talking about? They have a conversation just about Will's life and how he has lived with a person before and she's lived with a person before. They both don't anticipate things being rocky. Jasmine still, to me, expects things and says things that I think that she is regurgitating on what she thinks should happen. And I really think that she needs to rethink the way she sees roles, gender roles. And Dr. Clark, he says that exactly. And I think that it's right. You know, we don't know how much these people make, but he made a point, the doctor, saying that she could very well make more money than him, and it wouldn't make sense for it to be 70-30. They've kind of reached an area where it's 60-40. And I thought to myself, Is that because Jasmine is planning on quitting her job? I think that's what I want to know. I want to know Jasmine's like 2-year plan. Is she planning on quitting her job? Is Will gonna have to make more money? They want to have kids in 2 years, but they're not even having sex, which is a little bit of a side note, so we'll get to that. Jasmine and Will can work. The things that she's clear about what she wants feel wrong, feel like something that a modern woman who pays her own bills shouldn't want, or shouldn't be so consigned to, right? Shouldn't be so dedicated to. But it also feels like she's willing to open up. Like when the doctor or when the producers say things to her that make her go like, maybe you should think another way. She goes, yeah, you're right. Maybe I should. And I think to myself, yes, you should, Jasmine. You really, really should, because you could be ruining something based on some preconceived notions or based on some like other people's relationships that you think that you should have and or deserve. And I don't think there's anything wrong with what I think Will is providing or says that he wants for you guys. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There is an issue because Will hasn't attempted to have sex with her, and Jasmine feels like it's his job to do so. Will asks Jasmine if she feels that he doesn't find her attractive, and she says, no, I think you find me attractive. So my thing is, why not initiate it? Is she worried about him rejecting her? I don't think he would reject her. Now, if she did initiate and he did reject her, that would be an issue. But the doctor is giving them permission to go on ahead and get to know each other, which I think they should. They should go on ahead and knock boots. Like, they're getting along well. I think it could only take their relationship to the next level. Like, I somewhat feel like Jasmine doesn't respect Will. Like, I don't know what it is. I feel like she doesn't quite respect him because she talks to him in a way that's a little bit like she's still interviewing him. Or, I don't know. Like, I find myself sometimes talking to guys that way when I'm dating them, and that's because I'm still trying to get them to prove themselves to me. So that's what I'm picking up, and I could be absolutely wrong, but that's just what I'm thinking. But I'm like, this person's already committed to you. And that to me is half the battle when you're dating somebody, is getting them to tell you what they want and how far they see this relationship going. And this person says, I'm already in it. So now, to me, the hard part, or the easiest part, is now just blanketly talking about your expectations and working it out. I mean, again, I've had enough therapy to where I'm able to like be somewhat self-aware, and I feel like Jasmine isn't self-aware. I feel like she's still being like, this is what I want, and you're gonna give it to me because I'm a good Black woman. And I need her to step back from that, because I think they've already acknowledged that they're both two great people who just need to find love. You get me? Yeah. So next, let's move on to Luke and Kate. So it basically turns out that Luke felt that Kate put a lot of pressure on him to kiss her. They had been drinking. I don't know if she more than him, but when the kiss happened, he broke away and he just did not feel comfortable with it and wasn't down with it. And then he just told her, perhaps because he had drank in him and he wasn't thinking clearly on what to say and what not to say. Luke also seemed slightly surprised when Dr. Calvin talked about it. He was like, oh, that thing I said, as though he wasn't aware that Kate would have told producers or anybody, which I thought was so weird and silly. These things are going to come to the light, and he keeps talking about issues like, oh, I want to keep that private. It's like he really wants to control how the viewers like us see him, and production is like, no, we're not going to allow you to control anything. You're going to tell us how you feel, or Kate is going to tell us how you feel. So boo-boo kachoo. And he has come out looking like a real asshole. I feel bad for him. I do, because I don't think that he is a mean person. I think that his reaction to being forced into this scenario with someone that he is not attracted to has thrown him off kilter. And I still think it's weird that he's not attracted to Kate. Every time I look at her and I go, who is in their right mind would say that this woman is not pretty?
Let me interject and say that I know that there is a difference between finding somebody pretty and handsome and being attracted to them. You could think somebody is pretty and or handsome and not be physically attracted to them, but I think that the attraction will come in time if you do think that they are pretty or handsome. Luke said that he wasn't attracted to her before he had enough time to allow the attraction to grow, especially if he does think that she's pretty.
Like, I'm not saying you have to want to have sex with her all the time. And I think that's what he's looking for. But you can acknowledge that she is a beautiful woman who will have beautiful children, right? I try to compare these two to Jamie Otis and Doug from season 1. And I could see Jamie being a little weird because Doug did not look cute when he was at the altar. First of all, he needs facial hair. And that's just my personal opinion. But like, I still thought Jamie's behavior was a little ridiculous. But for the most part, I guess I can kind of see her point of view a little bit. Because I've never been, like, I may not have the same, like, life experiences as her, and maybe she's gone through something, like, girl, I don't know. But when I think about the fact that Luke didn't want to kiss Kate after 8 days, or 7 days at the time, maybe, of being together, and then when he did, he said he felt dead inside, I was like, now you've surpassed Jamie Otis's behavior. Because at least she let Doug touch her on the second day of the honeymoon. And he says he doesn't want to get out of this relationship. And Dr. Calvin says, you know what, this can't happen again. What you did was terrible, and I don't want Kate to be in an environment with somebody who's going to say things like that to her. And Luke completely understood. I also thought it was a little stretch for Dr. Calvin to tell Kate that it was abusive, because to me, abusive is like a pattern of behavior. So like, I don't necessarily know if everything that he's doing is abuse. I think if he continued to say things like that to her, it would have been abusive. But I don't think just saying it in general is abusive. I think it's incredibly rude and mean. But abusive, I think that's taking it a little too far. Me personally. So it turns out that Luke is just like, you know what, I am going to give this my all, and so is Kate, and it seems like they're getting along a little bit better, but I really just don't understand why Luke signed up for this show if he wasn't prepared to be forced into situations. Like, what did he think would happen? And why is it so horrible to kiss Kate? Okay, if I take away the fact that he's the gender fact, and I just say, if this person is uncomfortable kissing this person, they shouldn't be forced to do it. I agree with that. And so I'm now going to step back, because I can't be like, oh, you're a man, like, get over it. Men are supposed to do this, this, this. Like, if Luke is saying that he doesn't want to kiss her, or he doesn't want to get physical, or this is awkward for him, or he doesn't feel that it's right, we shouldn't force him to do it. I just think that it sucks for Kate that she has to go on, like, Doug and try to woo somebody and get somebody to like her and respect her who doesn't find her attractive. And it sucked for Doug, and I thought it was horrible for him, but he was willing to fight it out. And I think socially, we socialize men to take a certain amount of rejection from women, and that they're supposed to continue to pursue and pursue until finally the woman is like comfortable. And that is in the relationship and outside of relationship, that is why we have a lot of issues that we need to correct right now with rape culture, because of this idea that men need to keep trying and trying and trying until they get the woman. I see that that is what Doug had to do, and that made me uncomfortable and weird, because I feel like that shouldn't be the case. Like, men shouldn't have to like run after women over and over and over again in order to get them. I don't think that we need to have those standards anymore. Like, we're not cavemen. I think that if a person doesn't like somebody, then it's not the other person's job to pursue them and convince them until they do like them. Because that situation could be taken in several different ways, and all of them not good, except for the one where the person eventually starts to love that person. And I feel like that might be what's going on with Kate and Luke. He's already thrown down the gauntlet and said, I'm not attracted to you, which is crazy. He shouldn't have said that. And the same thing with Jamie. You know, it's harder when the man is the one who's pulling away than the woman chasing. It feels weird. As society, it feels weird, but it's the same thing. So if I gave Jamie a pass, which I really didn't, then I have to give Luke a pass, which I really don't. But for the sake of this experiment, for the sake of the show, for the sake of Kate, I'm going to give him a pass, and I'm going to give Luke a clean slate. And I think from here on out, he needs to prove himself to her, period, point blank. And the problem with that is that if he's struggling now, he's going to struggle even more later on. And I know there's going to be more roadblocks. And I just feel bad for his mom. You know, I keep thinking of this like woman who, and all the people around him, and he seems like a good guy, but put in this pressure cooker, he's not handling this well at all. And it's so obvious. Okay, so that's the end of my review of this show, you guys. Please let me know what you thought of this episode. Let's have a kiki and a conversation in the comment section. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. If you like what I do here on this channel, please subscribe. Have a fantastic day. And always remember to be you, be true, and find your place. Bye.